They say Lagos never sleeps, but at 11:30 p.m. on a rainy Friday, Victoria Island felt dead. My name is Tunde. I am a banker, which means I trade my life for a salary that can barely buy a plot of land. I had missed the staff bus because my boss needed a report, urgently. By the time I walked out of the glass office building, the streets were empty. The usual chaos of okadas and keks was gone. I stood under the flickering street light, my expensive suit getting damp from the drizzle. I needed to get to the mainland. I just wanted to go home and sleep. Then I saw it. A battered yellow Danfo bus, swerving through the puddles. It had no destination sign, just a conductor hanging out the door, whistling. Oshodi straight. The conductor rasped. His voice sounded like gravel grinding against metal. I didn't think twice. I waved my hand. The bus screeched to a halt in front of me. The sliding door was rusty and dented. Enter quick. The conductor shouted, not looking at me. He was wearing a dirty hooded jacket that hid his face. I jumped in. The bus smelled strange. Usually a Danfo smells of sweat, petrol, and dusty seats. This bus smelled like damp earth. It smelled like the lagoon at low tide. It smelled like wet rot. I sat near the back. There were only 4 other passengers. A woman in a lace wrapper holding a basket. A young schoolgirl in a uniform. A man in a mechanic's overall. And an old man clutching a walking stick. "Good evening," I muttered, trying to be polite. No one answered. No one moved. The bus took off, speeding towards the Third Mainland Bridge. I pulled out my phone to check the time, but the screen flickered and died. "Damn battery," I whispered. I looked around the bus again. The air inside was freezing cold. It felt like walking into a bank vault or a morgue. I shivered, buttoning my suit jacket. Then I noticed something about the woman in the lace wrapper sitting in front of me. She was sitting perfectly still. She wasn't swaying with the movement of the bus. The bus hit a pothole bam, but her head didn't even nod. She was stiff, like a mannequin. I looked down at the floor. Water was pooling around her feet. It wasn't raining inside the bus, but dripping from the hem of her lace wrapper was dark, murky water. I looked at the schoolgirl. Her uniform was soaked too. Her skin was pale, almost gray, like she had been in a bath for too long. A cold fear started to rise in my stomach. This wasn't a normal bus. This wasn't a robbery. This was something worse. "Conductor," I called out, my voice shaking, "stop the bus. I want to drop here." The conductor didn't turn around. He just laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "No dropping on the bridge, Oga," he said. "We go all the way to the final stop." I looked out the window. We were on the Third Mainland Bridge now. The black water of the Lagos Lagoon stretched out endlessly below us. But the driver wasn't staying in the lane. He was driving fast. Too fast. And he was drifting towards the edge of the barrier. "I said stop," I shouted, standing up. The woman in the lace wrapper slowly turned her head. Her neck cracked loudly like a dry branch snapping. She looked at me. Her eyes were gone. In their place were 2 empty holes, filled with small, squirming crabs. She opened her mouth and water poured out. "Sit down, Tunde," she gurgled. "We have been waiting for you." My knees gave way. I didn't faint, but my legs refused to hold my weight. I collapsed onto the dirty metal floor of the bus, scrambling backward on my hands and feet like a crab trying to escape a pot of boiling water. Jesus, Jesus! Jesus, I screamed, the name tumbling out of my mouth in a panic. But the woman with the crab-filled eyes didn't flinch. She just kept staring at me with those empty, watery sockets. The small crabs were moving, their tiny legs clicking against her skull. Click, click, click. It was the sound of nightmares. I backed up until my spine hit the metal partition behind the driver's seat. I was trapped. "Driver, stop this bus," I yelled, banging my fist against the metal divider. "There's a mad woman here. Open the door." The driver didn't turn, but I saw his hands on the steering wheel. They weren't hands. They were skeletal claws, stripped of flesh, gripping the wheel so tight the bone was cracking. And the skin that remained was gray and peeling, like the skin of a fish left in the sun for 3 days. The bus wasn't slowing down. If anything, it was speeding up. The engine roared, but it didn't sound like a combustion engine. It sounded like a beast groaning in pain. The speedometer needle was spinning wildly, past 120, past 140, past the numbers painted on the dial. I looked at the other passengers. Now that the veil had been lifted, I saw them for what they truly were. The man in the mechanic's overall slowly turned his torso to face me. His movement was jagged, accompanied by the sound of grinding cartilage. The entire left side of his face was melted. It looked like raw beef that had been thrown onto a charcoal grill. His lips were fused together on one side, revealing blackened teeth and gums that oozed yellow pus. The smell hit me, then the overpowering stench of burnt hair, petrol, and roasted meat. "You are making too much noise," the mechanic rasped. His voice sounded like air escaping a punctured tire. "The master does not like noise." "Who is the master?" I whimpered, tears streaming down my face, mixing with the cold sweat. "I have money. I have my ATM card. Take everything. Just let me down at the next bus stop." The young schoolgirl in the uniform giggled. It was a wet, bubbling giggle. She turned around. Her throat was slit open. A wide, gaping red smile across her neck. Her white uniform shirt was stained a deep, rusty brown. She pointed a pale, wrinkled finger at me. "Next bus stop?" she mocked, her voice gurgling through the wound in her neck. "There are no bus stops where we are going, Uncle. We are going to the under." I scrambled to my feet. I had to get out. Even if the bus was moving at top speed, jumping out was better than staying in this metal coffin with these things. I lunged for the sliding door. I grabbed the rusty handle and yanked it with all my strength. It didn't budge. It was welded shut. I kicked the window. Bang! Bang! The glass didn't break. It didn't even crack. It felt hard and cold, like a slab of ice. Then the conductor stepped towards me. In the dim light of the passing street lamps, he finally lowered his hood. He didn't have a face. Where a nose and mouth should be, there was just smooth gray skin. No eyes, no mouth. Just a blank slate. But somehow he spoke directly into my mind. His voice echoed inside my skull, loud and terrifying. "The fare is due." He reached out a hand. The palm was open, but he didn't want Naira. The skin of his palm split open, revealing a mouth with rows of needle-sharp teeth right there in the center of his hand. A tongue, long and black like an eel, slithered out from his palm, tasting the air. "The fare is due," the voice boomed in my head again. "Blood for the crossing." "I don't have it," I screamed, backing away until I hit the back window. "I don't have blood to give you." The bus suddenly swerved violently to the right. We were no longer in the middle lane of the Third Mainland Bridge. We were heading straight for the concrete barrier. "Watch out!" I screamed, bracing myself for the impact. I expected the screech of tires. I expected the crunch of metal against concrete. I expected the fiery explosion of the fuel tank. But there was no sound of impact. The bus didn't crash into the barrier. It phased through it like a ghost. For a second we were airborne. Suspended in the dark, rainy sky above the Lagos Lagoon, gravity took over. The nose of the bus dipped. I saw the black water rushing up to meet us. The dark, oily surface of the lagoon reflecting the city lights one last time. Splash. The impact was heavy. Water smashed against the windshield, turning the world instantly black. I took a deep breath, holding it, waiting for the water to flood in, waiting to drown. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying to God, praying to my mother, praying for a miracle. The bus sank. Down, down, down. I felt the pressure building in my ears. But the water didn't come in. The windows didn't shatter. The engine didn't stop. I opened my eyes. Outside the windows, it was pitch black, illuminated only by the faint greenish glow of the bus's headlights cutting through the murky water. We were submerged, completely underwater. Fish swam past the window, catfish, tilapia, and things that looked like snakes. But the most terrifying part was not the water outside. It was the fact that the driver shifted gears. Grrr, clunk. He stepped on the accelerator, and the bus kept driving. We weren't floating. We were driving on the bottom of the lagoon. The wheels churned through the mud and silt of the riverbed. The woman with the crab eyes turned to me again. The crabs were now excited, scuttling faster in her sockets. "Welcome to the highway of the lost," she whispered. "We are almost at the palace." The silence inside the bus was heavier than the water crushing us from the outside. The engine didn't roar anymore. It just hummed, a low-frequency vibration that I could feel in my teeth. We were moving through a graveyard. Through the algae-covered windows, illuminated by the ghostly green beams of the bus headlights, I saw the history of Lagos tragedies. We drove past the skeletons of other vehicles that had plunged into the lagoon over the decades. I saw a rusted Mercedes-Benz from the 1980s, its emblem still shining dully in the murk. Inside, a skeleton gripped the steering wheel, its jaw hanging open in an eternal scream. We rolled past a sunken Maloo bus, those giant yellow beasts that used to rule Lagos. It was lying on its side, half buried in the silt, surrounded by a school of blind, pale fish picking at the moss growing on its tires. "Look," the young schoolgirl whispered, pressing her face against the cold glass. Her slit throat opened and closed like a second mouth as she spoke. "That is where I died. 2011, my father was driving me to school. He fell asleep at the wheel." She pointed to a silver Toyota Camry, crushed like a soda can against a massive underwater rock. She giggled again, that wet, bubbling sound. "Daddy is still inside. He sleeps forever now." I turned away, my stomach churning. I couldn't look. I focused on the floor of the bus. The water that had leaked in from the passengers was rising. It was up to my ankles now. It was ice cold, numbing my toes inside my leather shoes. "Please," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I have a fiancée. Her name is Kioma. We are getting married in December. She is waiting for me. I cannot end like this." The old man with the walking stick shifted in his seat. He hadn't spoken yet. He slowly lifted his head. His face was not damaged like the others. He looked like a normal, kind grandfather. But when he opened his eyes, they were entirely white. No pupils, no iris, just milk. Kioma will cry for a week, the old man said softly. Then she will wear black for a year. Then she will meet a man named Emeka. They will marry. They will have 3 children. She will forget the banker who never came home. No, I shouted. You are lying. The dead do not lie, Tunde, the old man sighed. We only see time differently. Your time above is finished. Your time below is just beginning. The bus suddenly lurched downwards. The riverbed dropped away into a deep, dark trench. We were descending into the deepest part of the lagoon, a place no diver had ever seen. And then I saw it, the palace. It wasn't a building made of bricks or cement. It was a monstrosity constructed from the debris of the city. The walls were made of rusted shipping containers stacked on top of each other, welded together by barnacles and coral. The towers were made of sunken oil tankers, standing vertically like massive steel pillars. The gates were huge, made from the ribs of a whale woven together with heavy anchor chains. Bioluminescent jellyfish floated around the palace like living lanterns, casting an eerie blue and purple glow over the structure. The queen is hungry, the conductor's voice boomed in my head. He stood up again, the faceless man. He walked down the aisle towards me. The water splashed around his boots. He stopped right in front of me. He held out his hand again. The mouth in his palm opened wide, the needle teeth gnashing together. The long black tongue slithered out, dripping with saliva. The fare, the voice demanded. You cannot enter the palace without paying the toll. I told you. I cried, pressing my back against the cold metal wall. I don't have blood. The conductor didn't argue. He moved faster than my eyes could follow. His hand, the one with the mouth, lunged forward and clamped onto my left shoulder. Crunch! I screamed. The pain was blinding. I felt the teeth sink through my suit jacket, through my shirt, and into my flesh. I felt the tongue inside his palm licking my blood as it flowed. He wasn't just biting me. He was drinking. I tried to push him away, hitting his faceless head with my free hand, but he was as solid as a rock. He held on for 10 agonizing seconds. I felt my strength draining away. I felt cold. My vision started to blur. Then he released me. He pulled his hand back. His palm mouth was red with my blood. He made a sickening, swallowing sound. Fare accepted, the voice echoed. 1 passenger, economy class. I slumped to the floor, clutching my bleeding shoulder. The blood seeped between my fingers, staining the dirty water on the floor crimson. The bus slowed down. We were approaching the whale-ribbed gates of the palace. The gates slowly creaked open, disturbed by the current. Inside the courtyard of the palace, I saw them. Thousands of them, people standing in rows. Men in suits, women in market clothes, children in uniforms, hawkers with trays on their heads. They were all standing perfectly still, swaying slightly with the water current. Their eyes were open, staring at nothing. Their skin was pale and bloated. These were the missing people of Lagos, the people who went out in the morning and never came back, the people who entered a one-chance bus and vanished. The bus came to a final halt in the center of the courtyard. The engine died. The rusted sliding door groaned, clang. It slid open. The water from the outside rushed in, flooding the cabin instantly. I gasped, taking one last gulp of air before the cold, dark water filled the bus. Out, the conductor commanded. "Join your new family." I held my breath as the water filled my lungs. But I didn't choke. I didn't drown. In this realm, the laws of physics were broken. I was breathing water as if it were air, but it tasted of salt, iron, and decay. I floated out of the bus, my feet touching the sandy floor of the courtyard. The water was thick and viscous, moving like slow-motion jelly around me. I looked at the army of the lost surrounding me, thousands of missing Lagosians. They stood in rows, swaying like seaweed. Their eyes were white. Their skin was blue. They were the silent witnesses of the lagoon. "Bring him forward," a voice boomed. It didn't come from a person. It came from the vibration of the water itself. The crowd of corpses parted, creating a path towards the center of the palace. There, sitting on a throne made of human skulls and rusted car engines, sat the queen. She was massive. From the waist up, she was a stunningly beautiful woman with skin like polished ebony. She wore a crown made of cowrie shells and red coral beads. But from the waist down, she was a nightmare. She had no legs. Instead, she had the thick, coiling body of a giant python. The scales were black and green, glistening in the dark water. And if you looked closely, each scale had a human face trapped inside it, screaming silently. "A banker," the queen hissed, leaning forward. Her eyes were yellow with vertical pupils like a cat. She smelled the water around me. "He smells of greed, and fear, and love?" The faceless conductor stepped forward, bowing low. "He paid the fare, my queen, a pint of blood." The queen laughed. It sounded like bubbles bursting. "Blood is cheap. Everyone has blood. But this one—" She slithered off her throne. Her massive snake body uncoiled, circling around me. I felt the rough texture of her scales brushing against my suit. She was huge, easily 30 feet long. She stopped right in front of my face. She reached out a hand with long, black fingernails and lifted my chin. "You want to go back to the surface, don't you? You want to go back to your Kioma." I nodded, unable to speak. My throat felt paralyzed by the cold. "I can send you back," the queen whispered, her forked tongue flicking near my ear. "But the lagoon does not give refunds. If I give you your life back, you must give me something of equal value, something precious." My hand instinctively went to my pocket. Inside my wetsuit jacket, I felt the small velvet box, the engagement ring. I had spent 6 months of my salary saving for it. It was pure 18-karat gold, with a diamond imported from South Africa. I pulled it out. The gold shined brightly even in the murky darkness. The diamond caught the bioluminescent light of the jellyfish. "Gold," the queen purred, her eyes widening. "The metal of the sun. We do not have much gold down here. Only rust and bones." I held the ring out to her. My hand was shaking. "Take it," I mouthed. "Take it and let me go." She smiled. It was a terrifying smile that revealed too many teeth. "A fair trade. A ring for a life." She snatched the ring from my hand. She examined it, sliding it onto her pinky finger. "The deal is struck." She turned to the faceless conductor. "Throw him out. He is boring me now." The conductor grabbed me by the neck. His grip was like iron. He didn't walk me to the gate. He didn't put me back on the bus. He simply looked up towards the distant, shimmering surface of the water, miles above us. He threw me. I flew upwards like a rocket. The water rushed past my ears. The pressure changed violently. My lungs felt like they were exploding. The light grew brighter. Brighter, brighter, gasp. I broke the surface. I sucked in a lungful of hot, humid, polluted Lagos air. It was the sweetest thing I had ever tasted. I flailed my arms, hitting something hard. Sand. I dragged myself up onto the beach. I was under the Third Mainland Bridge, near the wood market. It was dawn. The sun was just rising over the lagoon, painting the water blood red. I collapsed on the sand, coughing up black water and algae. I was alive. I checked my shoulder. The bite mark was there, a jagged, scarred circle where the conductor had taken his fare. It wasn't bleeding anymore. It looked old, like a scar I had for 20 years. I stumbled up to the main road. I looked like a madman, wet suit, missing shoe, covered in slime. A taxi driver stopped for me, looking worried. "Olga, are you okay? Were you robbed?" "Yes," I rasped. My voice sounded different, deeper, like the sound of waves. "I was robbed. I eventually made it home. Kioma cried when she saw me. She said I had been missing for 3 days. The police had given up. I told her I was kidnapped by area boys. I never told her about the bus. I never told her about the Queen. But I never bought her another ring. I couldn't. Because now, whenever I see gold, a necklace, a watch, a wedding band, I don't see metal. I see the Queen's eyes. And whenever I am near water, whenever I turn on the shower or stand in the rain, I hear them, the voices of the passengers. The schoolgirl, the mechanic, the woman with crab eyes. They are whispering to me from the drain. "Tunde, we are waiting. The bus is coming back around. So if you are on the island late at night, and it is raining, and a yellow bus stops for you with no destination sign, and the passengers are sitting too still, don't enter. Walk home. Even if it takes all night, because the fare is not Naira, and the final stop is not on the map.